does anyone have questions? Or responses, or...
I was just curious in terms of storytelling, which is what I felt you were doing for sure. But anyway, just, about how do you approach when you play your story?
Well, this particular story came because I went to Nigeria for the first time almost 2 years ago, and I had this gift of finding my father's journals and where he recorded his dreams. And so they were in this old dusty suitcase, and my stepsister was looking for a photograph, and she was like, oh, I think it's in here. So we went in there and started pulling all this stuff out, and I'm like, what are these? And so so that night I read through all of them, and it's over 15 years worth of information. And at the end of the night, I was like, what is this shit? It's like, if you think about, it's largely dreams, and so if you think about your dream life, it's part of you, it's creative, it's your subconscious, but it's also kind of like, it doesn't, it's not quite the same experience as knowing you, right, as a person. So I felt like I really wanted to figure out some kind of story and narrative from this, and way to talk to this me as this character, to talk to this narrative that I created. So that's where the piece began for me.
Well, just out of curiosity, I assume that the journals are written in English?
There are some songs in Yoruba and a few phrases, and I haven't. I translated a little bit of it, but that's yet to be translated.
So was the fox an image that he talked about in his dream?
No, the fox was a way for me to be able to do this, and I felt like the story I told about him and made up about him wasn't entirely. Well, it was my truth, but it wasn't. It was close, and so I felt like a trickster in many ways, constructing these different lies and truths, and maybe he was gay, and maybe this is it, and this, and all this stuff. And so then I figured, well, a trickster has a very important function in the world, and I'll take on that function for the time being.
Why did you choose false?
Because, well, a couple reasons. Foxes tend to be tricksters in stories, but I also had this, and I had known that and read various stories. And then I was in Spain a few years ago at a residency, and there was a fox who would come around when we ate dinner. And one afternoon, I saw this fox out my window, and it was just like, and I was like, I'm captivated, I'll go with you. And he was, and it was just like the eyes and the way the fox moved and everything was just so enchanting. And then I kind of understood the stories, and I just, it came back to me recently that like, oh, this is something, this is like a way of talking about the world that I can understand this perspective of this animal.
So were both pieces autobiographical? I sense not. I sense that yours is not autobiographical, because you are not from Haiti.
Well, my dad is. So I'm still digesting my performance. So I will have to get back to you with more questions, but yeah.
So it felt like there was a tradition, or it came out of something like a trance music or chant.
Well, that's what I'm from Puerto Rico originally, and so there is Santeria in Puerto Rico, but I was never exposed to it. And then it wasn't until I went to Brazil 2 years ago that I went to some candomblé ceremonies and was introduced to, I guess, Yoruba music and rituals there, and then now I guess I've been exploring it myself and learning more and more. So, but I'm still digesting my performance and
I was so fascinated by the person applying the clay to their feet. It was such an interesting process. And so, in fact, it was so transformative. But I don't know if there's more you can say about that.
I went to a friend's performance in Brazil as well, and the beginning scene is, and I don't remember which is this deity, but it's one of the orishas applying like a white sort of clay substance to a person, and then the next scene in that play was him being handed his head. So that's where that came from, but yeah, that's how I thought.
Did you?
Well, just like this.
What was your question?
Can you give us like a brief recap on what Sadé is? Because when I started working with her on this project, I had very minimal just knowledge about what this music was about and who it was supposed to be to. Just like
I'm not sure what Sade is. I'm trying to wrap my head around it. I've only studied a little more in depth of Candomblé, and that's what I have experienced as far as ceremonies and rituals, but I don't understand what it is yet. I enjoy the dance and the music and the sound of the drums and seeing people being what is the word?
Transformed?
Not transformed, but
Unconscious.
struck.
yeah, like being in trance for when they're embodied by the orisha. There's a word for it, but I forget. When they're mounted. Yeah.
Really? Is that the
Yeah.
word?
Yeah. And so,
Well, I mean, I can say like a quick version of Santeria, which is just sort of the broad general version, is that the deities in many of these religions, like Santeria and Candomblé, and in traditional African religions, are aspects of the natural world. So you might have, the god of the sea, or the upper part of the sea, the lower part of the sea, fire, air, a tree, etc. And so there are aspects of each of us that are related to these deities. And you might have, I was asking, the question I asked her about the film, which was the head that was being handed, was it like a literal head, or was it like the person's head, meaning your head is also like your journey in life, or your path, your life path. And so your head might be ruled by a particular deity. And that means that you demonstrate a lot of aspects of that deity. So the short version. Are we showing one?
I enjoyed your singing. You were beautiful voice. Do you do any other kind of singing?
I like singing. I started singing jazz and bossa nova, and I'm now trying to learn how to sing salsa and samba, and so yeah, anything I like to dance to, I like to sing. So yeah.
You didn't need the mic. Do you know what the words were, or the words that you were singing? Is it a chant, or is it just tones? Or?
It's my understanding. It invokes several of the orishas. So it invokes Oshosi. It invokes Elegua. So yeah.
song to those
Yes.
CDs or?
Mhm.
Were you singing one song or were you weaving in and out of several different ones?
It's one song. It's called the Moyuba, and it's from Cuban Santeria. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just wondering, in terms of your process, how you think it's going to change when you go to Lagos to perform it? Just want to know where you think you're going with it.
Well, I'd like to involve more people in the piece. And so she's asking how it will change when I go to Nigeria, to Lagos. And I also, I think that I'm curious about the references, you know, and some of the things that I talk about, if they will be kind of like so obvious to people that they won't be areas of investigation for me anymore. I mean, it's interesting because it's really a piece about me making sense about my father on this earth, and so to go there, there's just another set of questions and concerns that have to do with, I guess, more daily survival things, and maybe some of those things will come out in the story differently. I mean, what you saw was such a small part. You know, it's a few passages, maybe, I don't know, maybe 20 passages, but it's, you know, I have pages and pages and pages, so I'd like to make, you know, some kind of larger story with it. But that's a question I will write to myself. Keep in mind.
And then did you adapt the staging based on what was here? Or is that always your staging?
No, this is my staging because this is the first time I've done this piece. So, you know, it really, and I usually make performance for video, but it definitely, the space helped determine various aspects of the piece, definitely. And I think, I mean, performers out here will feel this as well, that, you know, once you start working on the piece tells you things, and then you have to listen to those things. So when I first came into the space, I just started running around the space, and then I started figuring things out that way.
I just thought the projector was really, really clever. I think a lot of people did. I don't know how that came about, but the ghostly aspect of it, I'm assuming your father's passed. Yeah. The ghostly aspect of it really came across in that. I don't have a question. It's just the statement of it. And I don't know if you're reformulating that, but if you would keep that and play with it.
Keep doing it.
Thank you.
You're so graceful with it.
Yeah, I mean, that's what was amazing about it, is that you just had your full composure.
Thank you. Yeah, I was deciding, you know, because when I do this piece in Nigeria, I was deciding, okay, so does this mean I have to pack this projector? This thing is huge, right? But I think you answered the question for me. Yeah, I thought, you know, when you see these people doing these ancestor dances, they're massive, and the masks and the person in the costume, it's not a costume, but the person who becomes the ancestor is just like massive. And so I thought, I don't know where I first had that thought, but when I got the projector, I was like, oh, this is awkward and in the way it should be. So, thank
It's
you.
almost like a literal mountain.
Right. Oh, thank you.
I gotta know, was that video, did you do the video that was in the middle?
Yeah.
Okay, was that a Texas crank?
That was a Greenbelt. Yeah.
I don't know, I was looking at the drummer, so I missed a piece where they smashed the gourd, yeah. I was, oh, goodness, and then it floated away. I was hard. I wanted to look at you and listen, and then I find the waves were very beautiful and calming.
Calm to you.
Yeah, so I like that place. And then, of course, I love drums. Anytime you put drums in there, it's great. Wow. Okay.
Honoring everyone that's here in the geometric shape of a circle, and paying attention to that. I came late, so thank you for accepting me into this circle of energy. Being a little bit selfish, could you give us a recant of the African singing you were doing to the Orisha, and also to you going to Nigeria? Where are you from? Do you feel like you're from the past, the present, or the future? If you're from the future, are you here to tell us the things to come? If you're from the past, are you here to resolve unfinished business? Or if you're from now, wow, what's that like?
You must be Sunra's cousin or father or son.
No, my name is Makalani Okara Jones, and there's some people here that know me. I'm a jazz musician, which means I think outside of the box, which means I'm crazy legally. And I'm in that game, so.
I love the question.